Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings in Inmendham and such. Here in Inmendham. Keep forgetting that part. Yeah, anyway. So another week. Oof. We are flying by. Lots to do, lots of shit going on. Busy life, kind of thing. Gotta get more productivity and do things better and all of that crap I keep talking about doing and not doing. And so some of it I guess is going to be forced upon me. They're selling the property I live on and things will be a-changing. Not in a real substantial way immediately, so I'm good for another year anyway, probably. That's all I probably need, right? To finish up, finish my task here on Earth, and then I might get pushed out for Richie Rich's little spawn and such. We'll see. I think the plan people have, I don't see their vision at all. But anyway, I won't go into details now because don't want to say anything to get myself in trouble or anything. But anyway. Don't want to screw the deal. Yes, the internet. So many things. So, Hathaway made a few videos, 1-minute videos, insulting vegetarianism, claiming I'm not a vegetarian by some standard that he has, I suppose. Just demonstrating that he is exactly what he's been described as a sadistic lunatic and an asshole, a smelly bastard and dumb fucktard, small mind, fat belly, useless turd. But they did a video. Maybe I'll play some of that at the end of this video. With his brilliant ethics, which are, everybody just agrees to everything, and everything's just fine. I don't know. Very limited in its scope in terms of recognizing anything as anything real in the world, which is all the extortion and exploitation and uneven power. So that sort of comes up. I'm probably going to make I'm going to spend the next couple of videos. It'll probably be a few hours worth of crap. I think I'm going to play the Joe Rogan video just because I played a few minutes of it, 2 or 3, and both of these assholes, this Jordan guy and the Joe Rogan guy, seem like complete assholes. So I might as well. So that should be fun. Quintica guy took down a couple of his videos. Coward. Pussy. He accused other people of taking down videos, and then he takes down his videos, which is kind of ironic and funny and ludicrous. The hypocrisy. Oh my. So now he's just playing with the concept of somebody calling the cops on me. Like I said, I think I handled it with a bit of humor and, stoicness, but it's not a good thing. You really, there's something fundamentally unpleasant about people being able to pull strings like that with your destiny, especially when you know what happens, how things can escalate once the police are involved in something. And so, the fact that I handled it well doesn't mean it isn't a grotesque thing for somebody to impose on somebody else. So now he's just making jokes about it, like it's nothing, not a big deal. So the brilliant Piro chimed in, and he says there's no reason to think Quintica did it. And let's understand, I never was the one I didn't come out and say he did it. That didn't happen. People in the comments gave me rational arguments to believe he did it. And then people who had personal conversations with him informed me that he didn't deny it. And but Pirro thinks there's no reason to think he did it. So the fact that he did it to conference report, that's not a reason. The fact that he didn't deny it when asked directly, that's not a reason. Wait a minute. Those are reasons. Those are really good reasons to put him on a suspect list. Yes, not good reasons to convict, but that's not the subject, is it? The subject is there a reason to think he may have had involvement? Yes, there is reason to think so. Is there a reason to have him on the suspect list? Yes, there is reason. I mean, fuck. But Pirro needs to make friends, so he has to be all right with Quinteca. He has to try to he has to smooth things over so he can be buddies and friends with him. Because he's obviously a man of such brilliant character. It's just, bizarre. Anyway. So, otherwise, Pirro's just playing his old videos. I mean, that's just so charming. Yeah. Listen to me, critique me. Maybe not. I had an idea that was a good idea maybe a few years ago. And I thought about it and I said, no, that's not really a good idea. I mean, there are better uses of time than, improving my own, playing something I said poorly and then trying to say it better. Well, maybe it's not a terrible idea. I don't know. Anyway. Then there's this Anticontavad thing character. It's just a kind of a funny story. So he loves his cat, he says. And so there's a problem because the cat's a bit incontinent. Or the cat is irritable because there's a kid in the house maybe and it's shitting everywhere because it doesn't like the idea there's a baby in its fucking chair. Something like that. Well, anyway, it's going to the bathroom in the wrong places. And somehow they can't correct this with rewards and punishments and such. And he's going to say it's because the cat's old. Okay, maybe. I don't know, though. They just doesn't go on for 2 years, from aging. So that doesn't really sound quite right. But anyway, it's the whole subject of euthanizing. The same problem I've run into is that the veterinary industry doesn't want to do it because they can make more money treating animals than humanely putting them to sleep. And so they don't want you to do it until they get a good big pile of money out of it first. And they're all, I think, quite disgusting and grotesque. So he uses this opportunity, though. So he goes to the vet, and they have a problem. The vet doesn't really want to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And then some guy gives him grief in the parking lot because he's trying to put a cat to sleep, and calls him a murderer and whatnot. And does all this wacky stuff that some wacky people do. So, of course, he uses the wacko to define the entirety of the class. So anybody who's an animal rights advocate is now some kind of lunatic who's going to go insane because you attempted to have a cat put to sleep. And this is the nature of politics, I suppose. And so I'm just saying, I mean, the alternative argument can be made, I guess, because all I have to do is find one evil capitalist, and then I can just say all capitalists are evil and kill them all. So, I mean, his argument is he's against the very thing he does. So he, he talks about this pigeonholing thing, and then he pigeonholes. He talks about scapegoats, and then he scapegoats. It's just amazing. His just overt duplicity in complaining, and then complaining about complainers. I mean, yeah, but it's lost on the average imbecile doesn't get it, what's going on. The obvious contradictions in his guilt complexing over protect yourself from the guilt complexers. I mean, just it's insanely silly. But anyway, the whole subject isn't silly in the sense that yes, the do-gooders are often motivated by an imbecilic, simplistic view of things, and they're not appreciating the bigger picture kind of idea. And so, yes, they're just Band-Aid knitters, and the cure is sitting right there to be grabbed, and they don't grab the cure, they just keep knitting Band-Aids because they're into knitting Band-Aids. It's what they're comfortable with. And especially when they've already become something, you know, it's like the person who quits smoking or drinking, and then they just walk around like an arrogant, pompous ass, you know, talking about how easy it was and how blah, 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 and you're stupid and you're garbage if you can't do what they did, and da 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 da. And you know, there is some of that involved here. Playing these silly superiority games when, you know, there's supposed to be a principle involved somewhere. So it's like, that's why it didn't even bother me when Hafladay titles a video that Inmendham's not a vegan or a vegetarian. I mean, clearly I've said before, I will eat stuff. If somebody gives me a 10-year-old can of tuna fish because they're not going to eat it, they're going to throw it out, then I'll eat it. There's no point in wasting the dead organisms. But it accounts for, you know, 0.0001% of my diet or less. You know, maybe 3 cans last year, maybe. You know, so this is just such bullshit. So I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan because 0.00001% of my behavior doesn't fit in the category. I guess that's his argument, because I'm just being fair and open, saying, yes, I mean, if that's what your veganism is, some sort of technicality, well, then yes, maybe I broke the technicality. But it gets complicated because I'm also, I mean, what he can't say is Inmendham's not a defender of animal rights, because that's sort of what I would want to say. I don't want to be known as being a vegetarian or a vegan. I want to be known as a defender of animal rights and the rights of the welfare of animals. And those mean the ones in nature. It's not just about food. It's about laboratory animals, and it's about the biosystem that we are feeding off of indirectly every day. The oxygen you breathe and all the rest of it is all created by this biosphere that suffers every day. And so yeah, I'd rather be, if I'm going to be labeled, I'd like to be appropriately labeled. That gets into that whole Joe Rogan thing. His obsessions with labels. So yes, it really doesn't, you know, I mean, he's only hurting his own credibility by titling videos that way, in my opinion, so go ahead, hurt your own credibility, make yourself look like an ass. And when you mock the, you know, and he talks like vegans were born that way, or they learned how to be vegan when they were 6 years old because they had an emotional attachment to, you know, Bambi or something. And clearly most vegans aren't created that way. They come to the conclusion through years of perhaps some sense of dissidence and reason that yes, they can do better than that. And so he concedes, he argues that, he contends that there's nothing reason-based in the philosophy of first do no harm or don't cause suffering to animals unnecessarily. So unnecessary harm to him is not a viable, rational concept that you need to pay any attention to. There's no such thing. And the welfare of feeling things is not meaningful to anything that matters. It's not one of them. It's not in the matter category. Suffering is not in the it matters category. Compromise and cooperation, that matters. But suffering doesn't matter. And, you know, it's on its face idiotic to call himself somebody who's doing reasoning or logic, which is just basically mixing facts and saying that somehow he has a fact that says suffering is irrelevant. It's not something that's going to be part of your reasoning or your logic. You can cause as much as you want, and as long as you did it in your cooperative way, it's okay. Yeah. imbecile. So anyway, but anyway, that gets back to anti-contifod and this whole subject of the, advocating for animals, and these people who think there's some cat interest in being alive, like you're doing it some kind of favor by maintaining its existence. Like somehow more cats is good, less cats is bad, which there's no logic in it at all. And you're subjecting an animal keeping it alive just means you're subjecting it to the potential for its horrible death and having it in a bad way. So you always want to attempt to mitigate, if possible, before the crisis arrives. Killing something too late, is a lot worse than killing something too early. That's the simple truth, I think. I don't think there's a rational argument to defeat that simple fact. That that's where the bulk of the suffering is, and that's where and you have nothing. You're not really losing anything unless you really think, that it's going to matter to the dead cat. That somehow the dead cat's going to know, hey, I could have slept on a few more cushions and yawned and stretched some more. And damn it, you stole that from me. That's not logical. We feel it like that just because we think we're doing something. We think what we're doing is important. I have things to get done. I have to bring my plants in tonight, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. If I'm not here, that stuff won't get done. Well, do you think cats have any of that? No. They don't even have that, really. They don't have anything that has to get done. And so, when they go is sort of irrelevant. Again, unless you think more cats is better. Like we put cats on Mars, that somehow we have improved the universe. Unless you're that crazy, there's really nothing to defend in prolonging an animal's life. Just can't be defended. The thing at stake is its suffering, and suffering is what you're putting at jeopardy the longer something lives. And this whole pro-life argument without any kind of reasoning behind it. Why? Because it was here, therefore it should be here. That's the simplicity of their logic. Its here-ness means it should be here. The fact that it's here means it should stay being here. That's really not enough to justify, imposing extra risk and jeopardy of doom and torture, substantial torture. So, but anyway, this is a real problem in society, is that these I guess this, they're going to label them social justice warriors. They're going to put some label on people who are fanatic, or whatever it is, the fundamentalist version of the wackos. I don't know, people who take things to a preposterous extreme and just make it harder for the good thing to happen because they taint it with this disgusting excess, by trying to take too much, biting off more than can be chewed by society. And, it's a real problem. I suppose you could almost see this in it works in every political movement or in every political direction. It's like the dirty, filthy rich, are just, they're going to be gratuitous, in their taking, and so they're going to try to do the tax cutting thing and the expand the military budget thing, and they're just going to bite off way too much to chew, and they're going to leave the country in indigestion and all that kind of crap, and there's going to be the pendulum swing and all of that nonsense. And that's the tragedy of it, is this pendulum thing just keeps making a mess. It's just a wrecking ball, having that thing swinging back and forth. So both sides have to play a better game of fighting for what's right. And it's not throwing out your principles. It's just saying you have to win the victory honestly. These cheats to victory are very destructive. Very you can't sustain it, and you'll create the negative reaction. So yeah, so that's a subject in itself. Conference Moore made a fairly good video. I mean, he's always playing with words, but I like that he defends language and words and their power. As I've said the same things, there's huge power in language and the words we use and how they gain their meaning. And it's sort of, again, another irony to the to the nonsense of Hofladay is he's saying exactly the opposite. Somehow metaphors and similes and what's the other thing? Analogies have nothing to do with language, and they have everything to do with the definition of words. And he's just being really dumb, not to recognize that that you can only know one thing by its context, by the fact that it fits into the world. Dick. Anyway. So, which one was? Oh yeah, so it wasn't a bad video, but it was comparing, it was on the subject of labels, and the fact that in some circumstances labels are important, and in other circumstances they really aren't, and we ought to just let it go. And that would be my preference, is just to blow up most of the labels, because most of them don't mean anything. We can liberate ourselves from all this hassle. See, I mean, what label you put on a bathroom, I can see why that can matter to people. But what label you put on me, Mr. or Mrs., who cares? I'm not really interested in having my gender identified. I don't see any circumstance where it's at all relevant in any of my interactions in the world. I don't know why. I don't want them even asking me. Not that and I'm not sensitive on the subject. I'm just saying, I just don't see the meaning of it. Why does it matter? And why am I playing this game? Because we were one time a society full of married people, and it mattered who was Mrs. and who was the Mr.? I'm not playing that role. That's not the role I'm here to play. You want to identify me as something, then maybe crank would be okay, or F you for, I fucking hate you, cunt, likely. It's likely I hate you. That would be the title I would like. It's very likely I think you're a scummy, stupid cunt. That would be the title I want, the acronym. Mr. No, it doesn't mean anything. I don't really need the identification. So, I mean, the fact that we have to have labels is unfortunate. And there's too many of us, first of all, to have a number. I wouldn't mind just having a number, But yes, too many of us, so can't really do that. I suppose if we put letters in the numbers, it might be possible to shorten our numbers down to 4 or 5. I could be R1, D2, 4, or something. That would be okay with me. But again, that doesn't sing, in terms of practicality. You usually have to have some silly, stupid name. But anyway, but the idea that we should be able to define our own, that seems like something that maybe should be traditional. Is that maybe on your 18th birthday you get to rename yourself, and declare yourself for who you think you are. But then, people just, again, they'll just abuse it, so you have to limit how many characters, because they'll want to say something stupid in their name. I love Hitler, and just ruin the whole game. So anyway, but it's a legitimate crank, I suppose. so let's see. So, and then I don't think there was anything else of note. Darwin's Hampshire made some video that, you know, about, I guess, the work he does. He made a new channel about being a procreation, whatever you call that when you when you buy stuff for the government or something. It's called something like procreation, but not that word. Procurement, yes, being a procurement official or something like that. And technology and buying software from idiotic gouging companies, which I don't think would be too relevant to too many people. You know, but anyway, yeah, and I thought about it, I should make a reference to it, but then I thought about all the bad videos he's made in the last 2 years, and I just said, ah, fuck it, he's an idiot. He is an idiot. I mean, you know, brilliant minds gone bad. You know, have a record of it somewhere, and he's going to be on the top of the list. I mean, concert violinist, physicist, lawyer, Trumper. I mean, what the fuck? So, I'm afraid he must be in like early stage senility, whatever, some medication problem, I don't know. A lot of this stuff probably can be blamed on medication. People make that joke. I mean, I'm not on medication, except for low thyroid. But yeah, you just think, you know, half a day, yeah, maybe it's a medication. You know, you couldn't have always been this dumb. So you think that some people, when they go, you know, bizarre left turns or bizarre right turns or whatever, you just figure, yeah, well, something's going on. Stirred their brain the wrong direction. Yeah, I guess I won't drag this out. So, yeah, maybe we'll just play a little half a day just to throw in some sort of video-ness into the video, and then we'll just say, you know, move on to the next pile of crap. But yeah, you can see I'm just tired and I'm sick of everything. You know, it's all very tedious. So this is his justice, a rights conception reasoned from logic. So he's making these claims that there's something logical about not recognizing the obvious, that feeling things have a welfare state, and that, you know, courtesies, respect should be based on the capacity of something to feel. You don't have to give a Coke machine too much respect, because, you know, not too much neural activity, not too much threat. But a bunny rabbit, yes, it's got a little feeling brain, and as long as it's conscious, you got to worry for it.
Or any unreasoning, yeah? And so if
unreasoning, so that means what? Unfact-based interpretation or evaluation, judgment. So again, he's claiming that he has facts to justify the rubbish he has as axioms, which are, the rubbish is basically welfare doesn't matter, it just matters about negotiating some kind of silly contract.
I want to talk about the class of humans or class of aliens that have this feature of being able to game theoretic this thing out.
Why would they bother? So again, the whole reliance on game theory that he has is just kind of silly, because that only means something when there's two things of equal power, and there needs to be some sort of compromise. So why would the aliens compromise with us? If they have huge technology, they have all the guns and pointed at us, and we have nothing to point at them, why would they negotiate? Why wouldn't they just take what they want? Why would they respect us if we have nothing to offer them, by your theory? The only reason why they would respect us is because we had some kind of welfare, some sort of condition, and that condition could be detrimentally impact in the relationship with the aliens. So they'd have to understand that we were sensitive and feeling, and that our what we felt mattered.
Yeah? Then it will apply this kind of granting equality. Now, if we want to move from a civilization, to consider what happens then when evolution, evolution wants to sprinkle in a strategy of cooperative behavior.
Well, he corrects himself and says he doesn't want to. So anyway, he thinks it's cooperation. So he thinks the exploitation, and that's all it is, in nature, that is parasitism. The fact that one species exploits another species for some benefit, and as long as the other species doesn't do something offensive, they can, over time, turn that exploitation into mutual exploitation. One thing gets something, the other thing gets something. But they're both exploiting, and as soon as what they're getting they stop getting it, then there's no contract anymore. So as long as the only value here is you have to, what's in it for me? And if you think that's the foundation of justice and rights, I think you're one dumb fuck.
And it doesn't want to do anything, right? But if it's to happen, then there must be some analogous feature, as though in some realms they're regarding each other.
Well, like I said, there's no regarding each other. It's just gang warfare. So many social compromises that are made in the creation of a gang. You know, a gang of wolves, a gang of lions, a gang. You know, you can point to the gangs. And the fact is they make a compromise with each other in terms of mutual interest, in terms of if we cooperate with each other, we all get food. But again, if that breaks down and the cooperation no longer leads to more food, then it won't be cooperation anymore.
Yeah, and they don't just dog-eat-dog world it. Yeah?
Well, it is dog-eat-dog, and that's what nature's doing. So again, to sit there and make the argument from nature validates this theory, first off, I'd say that would be silly to do. You know, even if there was an element in nature that had something to do with this cooperation bullshit, it wouldn't be a good argument because nature's an idiot. But the fact is that even the idiot nature doesn't follow this rule. So you're wrong on both counts.
Now, when you develop the feature of reason,
it's not a feature. When you acquire facts and do as they order, that's all there really is. The facts dictate the logic.
that you can game theory and that you can use logic, then you've got a straight question. Am I going to move forward in the world and make decisions based upon A, reason, or B, gut reactions?
So again, he says everybody who disagrees with him is gut reacting, which is bullshit, and that all bad decisions have something to do with gut reactions, when no, they have to do with moronic, brick-headed, fucktarded, stupid cunts who are too stupid to acknowledge the obvious, which is, I feel, and I know my feelings matter, and I know the other organisms are the same machine as me, and they feel, and theirs matter. Now he's doing the opposite logic, but not doing it honestly. He's saying their feelings don't matter, and my feelings don't matter. That would be honest. But he doesn't think his feelings don't matter. So that's a lie.
Emotional gut reactions, they may be correct.
They may be correct. Well, yes, the emotions are just going to be a symptom of perceptions. So yes, if you perceive a child in jeopardy, like there's a knife, a sword sitting up in a stand, and the kid's going to fall on the sword or some other kind of thing, and you have an emotional, visceral reaction that harm's about to happen, There's nothing wrong about your visceral emotional reaction. It's a motivating mechanism. You've perceived something to be wrong, you associate with something else, and you associate it with an action and an urgency. And there's nothing wrong about the emotion. So this whole idea that the emotions come from nothing is also a vacuous pile of nothing from you. Show me the emotion that comes from nothing. It doesn't. And many of our instincts, there's people who will argue, don't kill snakes. Do you really think that their inherent disposition was to like snakes? Or do you think they've overcome their inherent disposition? Same with rats and other things. So you're applying no fairness to any of this discussion to claim that somebody who overcomes their innate fear of rats to appreciate that it's a complex living organism having a very intricate life, that they've committed a logical mistake.
In reasoning also, but you justify your gut reaction as correct, and it turns out to be correct.
So again, that's what he says. Everybody who disagrees with me is doing. That's all he's saying. So if you disagree with him, then it's an emotional thing. It's not a logical thing. And, it's a rubbish argument.
But the principle of choice about which is priority when they disagree, I'll proceed always with reason or I'll proceed with good reaction. Well,
yes, I would argue that thinking, I've always said it in all my videos, think, more thinking good, less thinking bad. So, yes, but again, this whole thing that that all this is about is some sort of the knee-jerk response versus the longer response. For a lot of people, it doesn't matter how long they think on a subject because they don't have the necessary facts to get the right answer. So thinking's not going to help them because they're ignorant and stupid and fucktarded, and they read Nietzsche or something, so they're dumb.
The idea of society and using reason is to subscribe to reason and to say
yeah, it's just so overtly revolting that you would claim you're using reason to argue that there's nothing to see here when a biological organism that has a brain is in distress, that it's not something for you to be concerned about, and you think that's being reasonable. I think that's as dumb can get. You can't get dumber on planet Earth than to think it doesn't matter when a sentient organism is in distress.
This is the way we're going to better cooperate. Cooperation was a good strategy.
Well, again, what interest do these parties have in cooperation is going to be the first question. If they have no need for what the other person has to offer except to keep them in cages, there's no reason to cooperate. What necessitates cooperation with the slaves, for example? There's nothing that necessitates that cooperation except for a recognition that you're keeping them in a deprivated and less qualitative state. But by your own reasoning, they're thems, and that shouldn't matter to you. So what reason is there to be cooperative?
For nature to find. Now we're going to use our mind, because we recognise these gut influences, to better refine and exclude our gut reactions, to purely focus on what reason tells us.
Right, he says the pureness of reason tells us that sensation doesn't exist in the other beings. They're thems and theys, and that doesn't, they can't possibly be relevant to me. Okay, their pain can only be bad to them. Can't mean anything to me. He believes that.
And then we find ourselves inextricably trapped by the discoveries of mathematicians, of Kant in his insights, of the way.
Whatever those amazing insights are, which is what white people be better. Yeah. Wow, how insightful.
I put it. So that's the analysis. We subscribe to reason, and now we want to sit round the table. What are the... We are then...
Yes, right. Okay, let's say, yes, let's all subscribe to, let's having respect for facts. And now let's put the facts on the table. Fact 1, there's no God. Fact 2, nature's an imbecile. We're already getting in trouble, right? And then you can just do the reason why we're conscious thing. Is because it provided Tyrannosauruses. That's what it made, Tyrannosauruses. It's good for a competitive field to have weapons of strategy. Not just big teeth, but knowing how to use them.
And shackled to these notions, and pragmatically we must make rules for this new game, and one of the rules must be
that yes, we're the master race. Anything inferior than us we can diminish and annihilate. Anything that can't properly, if you can't read the Bible, then we'll kill you. The ethics of the Spanish Inquisition and the annihilation of the Indian populations of South America.
To pay homage to this underlying fact and axiom. This is how we get the right conception of society, of law, of freedom to find our own conceptions of what it means to be a good life.
Yeah, well, none of that means anything, because then the commons just get exploited. I mean, let's agree. You kill all the lobsters, and I'll kill all the crabs. Let's agree. You eat all the codfish, and I'll eat all the mackerel.
That can run parallel to other entirely different conceptions of what it means to be a good life, and yet cooperate to grant us freedoms and still, have what is a society.
Yeah, well, just a pile of horse shit. If you don't get the kernel, then you don't get nothing. And the kernel is that you always have to create a system where you can't just pile all the deprivation on one class and all the luxury on another class and all of that kind of crap. And if you don't understand the concept of a quality of life, then you're not going to have any hope of getting anything called justice or rights right. You fucking idiot. Alright, anyway, enough of this turd. Alright, so moving on to the next thing, and to the such, and the whatnot, and the therefore, and whatever I get to. And I just don't have any, just can't find enthusiasm. But anyway, I'll just plug along and see how things go. Such.